Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Adaptive Cards community call of June 2021. I'm Matt Heidinger. I'll be your host, but just for a few minutes because we've got a really exciting guest set of speakers. Luca, Pat, and John work on the Microsoft Viva product. And they're going to dive deep into the extensibility model, the product itself, and how Adaptive Cards empowers different people to basically build up dashboards, what I've skimmed through it. I'm personally really excited about this topic. And so without further ado, I'll hand it right over to Luca to walk us through what you're going to show us today.
Matt, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Luca Bandinelli. I am a program manager in the Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint team. And as part of our org, we are also responsible of one branch of the Viva brand, which is the Viva Connection, and specifically the Viva Connection dashboard, where we are leveraging the power of Adaptive Card to be able to have beautiful and rich experience in the web, as well as in the rich clients, specifically Teams rich clients and Teams mobile. Today with me, I have virtually John and Pat, virtually physically in the call. Pat, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Pat, and I'm the dev lead on the SharePoint Extensibility team, and we've been tasked with opening up the Viva Connections product for third-party extensibility as well, and we've chosen to base a lot of that on the Adaptive Card framework, and it's been great.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so there is a build.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I forgot I injected a slide into your presentation.
Hey, Jeremy.
I did want to do one quick call out to the Build 21 conference that was a few weeks ago. So it was a slightly wordy, it probably won some award on one of the wordiest build titles, but for building great discovery and collaboration apps for M365 with new Microsoft Graph Connector and Adaptive Card capabilities. So Jeremy Thake and Rabia presented some really exciting Adaptive Card stuff, primarily around universal actions, which makes it possible to build a single card backend that works with Teams and Outlook. Now you can integrate with both those products, not have to have multiple backends, not have to go through multiple onboarding processes. Did a lot to make sure those experiences are portable between those key properties. So take a look at that build talk. And also they announced some really exciting Graph Connector stuff to allow you to plug Adaptive Card content even in new ways. And I'll hand it back off to Luca.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So no further notice, let's talk about Viva Connection and how the Adaptive Card framework plays a big role in the extensibility world for Viva Connections, not only for first-party components, but also for third-party components, and how the developers can use that to extend Viva Connections experience in the dashboard. So if you think about Viva Connections, Viva Connection has three main pillars. It has the dashboard where the company author can basically compose cards and applications that different type of users, frontline workers, as well as different either audiences can use to basically have access to the applications and can perform quick task actions that are crucial for their day-by-day work. Together with the dashboard, we also have the feed that gives the ability to have a curated aggregation of information across your organization, and the resources, which gives you the ability to access some of the key and sometimes mandatory links that are available in your company. From the dashboard standpoint, we surface the dashboard in the mobile as well as in the rich client by using the power of SharePoint, modern pages, and publishing. And we also provide an authoring experience in the SharePoint as well that gives the ability to content creators to build the dashboard for the entire organization. And we will go about that later in the demo. So from the dashboard standpoint in Viva Connection, which is the main topic that we're talking about here, because that's where the power of Adaptive Card get used and shines, you basically are able to create some kind of cards and provide kind of cards capabilities and functionalities to the end user so that the end user can have a glitch kind of information and then can click on the cards and access either pages or other kind of interactive functionalities that the user can operate within the dashboard itself. And you can see that we provide functionalities and capabilities where the card themselves can be dynamic so that the cards can respond to some of the actions that the end user does, or some kind of other things that can happen outside. So a perfect example here could be you have a connector card. The connectors is one of the functionalities that we have in Microsoft to book shuttles that can help us moving across different buildings within the Puget Sound area. And you set the connector, and when the connector is ready to pick you up, the card automatically changes without any end user intervention to basically notify the end user that the connector is available for him or her. In terms of the components of the dashboard, you have the company name and the navigation bar, the company logo. We have different type of cards. Right now, we support 2 different layouts, but we are planning to expand that in the future. And this is the card itself. Company name and company logo, it's something that the author and the admin can change. We rely on the Teams admin experience and the Teams tenant admin capabilities to be able to change this kind of information or this kind of content, because Viva Connection is a Teams app. So just like any other Teams app, the Teams administrator is able to change the branding and change the company name. So let's talk about the assembling the dashboard. So as I was saying, dashboard is a component that the author can create, but there are other kind of roles within the organizations that are operating together in order to make the Viva Connections dashboard available. So the SharePoint Teams administrator and Teams administrators are basically the one that decide where the dashboard live, because the dashboard right now will live in this home site of your company. In SharePoint, there is a way to say, I want to promote this site as an home site. And then eventually you can deploy the application to the end user so that the Teams administrator can go to the Teams admin cockpit and decide where the Viva Connections application can surface, either in mobile or in the desktop, which kind of audiences can use that, and if he or she wants to pin that application in the left rail. The business unit representative is basically the one that says which one of application I want, which kind of information my users needs to access, and then the business unit representative then interact with the ISV and or the system integrator in order to be sure that the right third-party applications are available. Because again, one of the traits of Viva Connections is to be able to aggregate functionalities not only from first-party solutions, but also from third-party solution, either by connecting existing third-party application. I'll show you what I mean by that, or by having solutions that were built directly for Viva Connections using SharePoint framework and Adaptive Card framework to be able to surface in Microsoft Viva Connections, and specifically in the dashboard. And then at the end, the corporate communication is basically the content creator, the dashboard author, which is the person which is more connected to the business. And that person is the one that is able to build the dashboard, add the cards, target audience the card, I'll tell you in a second what it means, and be able to surface that information to the end users. So the authoring experience, as I was saying before, is very familiar authoring experience for people that know how to, or that already deal with the modern page authoring experience in SharePoint. You start with the default layout, you have a card picker experience, and you can start adding the cards inside your dashboard. Then you can configure the cards depending on the developer choice. You may have more or less kind of information that the author is able to override and configure. And then once the configuration is done, the card is available. And from the card may or may not have an immersive experience within the app itself, what we call the quick view. And then from the quick view, you may or may not want to be able to access to an external app that can be an external page in SharePoint, an external link, or an application in Microsoft Teams. So, very quick recap. As I said at the beginning, we are supporting 2 different kind of layouts. We support a button that can have direct action or then connect the card, the user directly to the external application. Again, an external link, a SharePoint page, or a Teams application, or a quick view experience, which is a more inside app experience, completely and 100% powered by adaptive card. Some of the information can be customized by the author, and also we support some kind of dynamics capabilities and functionalities, and we will support some kind of provide some kind of out-of-the-box card. So let's talk about the authoring experience, and let me go here. So you can see my screen. I am in a communication site. In my communication site, I can go here and select the dashboard. So here you can see that I have my cards in my dashboard. There's already some cards over here. We'll go through them a little bit. As an author, I can go and edit, and now I am in an edited canvas, and I can have multiple kind of cards here. I can see that I have different cards. If I click on the card, I can select the pencil, and then now I can see that I have my property pane here. So a couple of cards that I want to discuss here that are basically important here. So this is basically a page card that I can use to point to an existing page in SharePoint. But a couple of interesting cards that I have, one is called the Teams app. And if I select the Teams app, basically, this is a first-party card that we provide out of the box that gives the author the ability to connect existing Teams personal app and bot to Viva Connection. So for example, here, as I said before, as I did already before, I can connect to TinyPulse. And when I do that, basically I have a minimal kind of pulse kind of customizations that I can do. But then when I preview, what it does, it basically gives me the ability to go here and open Teams directly. And you can see that as a way, and that points directly to my application. So this is basically a way for, let me go back over here, a way for authors to be able to reuse existing applications that were built on Microsoft Teams and reuse the investments that ISVs or the companies themselves did on top of Microsoft Teams, and have these kind of functionalities available from the get-go inside of Viva Connections dashboard. Another interesting card that we built as a first-party card is the what we call the card designer. And the card designer is an interesting card that we are building for citizen developers and developers that unleash the power of adaptive card to be able to create the beautiful cards in the Viva Connection dashboard without you needing to engage with a developer or without you being a developer. So you can see basically the card designer gives you the ability to specify the template JSON from adaptive card and the data JSON so that you basically can provide the same kind of functionalities and capabilities that you can build in adaptive card using the adaptive card designer from the beginning. So if you click on the button, this brings me over here on a different page, because that is what I configured in the button. But if I go back here and I change that, my button, instead of going to the link, will show a quick view, and then I preview. Now, if I click here, I can see an adaptive card functionality here. And if I want to do something a little bit more complicated, I can see here that I basically choose one of the demo that are available in the adaptive card.io designer. And from here, basically, I am using all the functionalities that are available in adaptive card. And again, if you take a look at the code that is behind that quote code, you can see that basically it is using the template JSON and the data JSON that is available in adaptive card. So as an author, you can go to adaptive card design, or you can select your favorite adaptive card, copy paste that information here in the card itself, and voila, your card is available to everybody without you needing to be able to or having the requirements to engage with the developers. Now, that's kind of a different kind of opportunity and options. As you can see, there is no way for you to provide any kind of external data or dynamic data. Everything is static and is configured within the card itself. But with the developer option, which is the one that we're going to talk about a little bit later, you will be able also to provide this kind of functionalities and capabilities with a more dynamic kind of interaction. So, for example, you will be able as a developer to use Adaptive Card, but then feed the Adaptive Card JSON with external data coming from Microsoft Graph or any other API that has been registered in Azure Active Directory. So,
Luca, can I interrupt real quick?
You must.
This is cool. I gotta say, like it reminds me of like the first time I saw the adaptive card stuff in Power Automate, and just making this stuff available to an entire group of people that's not a traditional developer, that's trying to just achieve a simple scenario. So I really like the power here. But from my own understanding and potentially for other folks, so this communication site, like this is a feature in SharePoint today. It's a portal site of some kind, and what you've added is the ability to build a dashboard. Is that the new functionality?
Correct. And
Okay.
Actually, just like I was sharing, if you can see that this is the dashboard that I have, the same dashboard, because it goes through Adaptive Card, it's also available in the mobile. So here is a video that we created this morning, where the Viva Connection application is showing the same dashboard that I just used in a mobile rich experience. You can access to the Teams application. This is the food card that we show. This is exactly the same Adaptive Card JSON that I selected before, and I use it from the browser, but now I'm using that from the Teams application rich client. And one of the important things that I want to highlight here is that because of the power of the Adaptive Card, we are able to render all this experience in React Native. So what you're seeing right now, all the cards that you are seeing, especially the one that was built using the JSON from Adaptive Card Designer, is not a web view. There is a React Native engine that is rendering the Adaptive Card JSON natively in this mobile application. So basically, you are able to, using SharePoint framework and the power of Adaptive Card, to build a solution, deploy that solution to your organization by using the Microsoft Store or by sideloading your application in your enterprise. And now that application will run in the web, in a web view, or natively in a device or in a channel that is supporting native design or native rendering, just like the Teams mobile application, by building the code once and basically have that code being rendering differently thanks to the power of Adaptive Card.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really neat. And so the portal experience you showed, the dashboard editor is a new feature within an existing offering.
That is absolutely correct. So,
but this app that you're showing right there, that's a new app. That's a Microsoft Viva app. This is a whole new app. Is that yeah. Right?
So okay. the two, yes, and the two things are connected together. So because of the Viva Connections, the SharePoint portal will give a new functionality called the dashboard. Mm-hmm. And the dashboard will be this new entry point from the authoring standpoint that be able to create a Viva Connection dashboard for the Viva Connections. Then in Teams, you will have a new app called Viva Connection that will be available either both in mobile and in the desktop, from where you will be able to surface the dashboard itself in either web or native, depending on the kind of experience that you are surfacing. So in Teams Mobile, as an example, just like I'm showing right now, will be native rendering.
Cool.
So just to clarify that slightly, so it's not a new app in terms of on your mobile device, you'll have like a new top-level app. It's an embedded app inside the Teams experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new Teams app. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Makes sense. Cool.
So right now you are in the Teams client. As you can see on the bottom, those are all the icons that will be available in the Teams client. So it's a new app in Teams. Thank you, Pat.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Any other questions? Cool. So let's move forward. Let's talk about custom card. So as I said, we're talking about out-of-the-box card. We will have some kind of out-of-the-box card, Teams app, Designer, and other cards that connect to first-party Microsoft applications, just like Tasks, as an example, will be available for Microsoft 365 customers by the time we launch Viva Connections. But we also, just like Pat was saying at the beginning of the presentation, are able to provide the ability for system integrators and ISVs to build custom cards using the power of SharePoint framework and Adaptive Card. So, and the custom card support basically gives the ability to developers to create a full experience. They will be able to create cards. They will be able to create quick view if that's something needed from their business requirements. And using code, they will also be able to do deep link connection to external application, external web applications, external SharePoint pages, or external Teams applications. Very similar to the one that we did with the Teams card, but because it's custom code, now the card can go a little bit more detailed integration, just like, for example, if your Teams application has multiple tabs, you will be able to say, I want, if you click this button, I want to go to this tab. If I click this other button, I want to have a different kind of experience inside of the Teams application itself. So let's talk about kind of the infrastructure and the architecture, the taxonomy of the Viva Connections card. So the card is the first experience that you have in the dashboard. It's something that it's required. It's something that you, if you want to build a custom experience on top of Viva Connections dashboard, you will have to provide. And the purpose of the card is to be able to provide to the end user quick, actionable information that are supposed to be consumed directly within the card. So, for example, your connector is arrived, or your flight has been changed, or you have to go to the gate, or you need to check in for kind of frontline worker scenario. So the idea of the card is that everything is there available for you, and you should be able to consume that information directly there. If, however, you need to provide more kind of interaction or more kind of information, this is where the quick view comes. And the quick view is another kind of experience that, as a developer, you can create for Viva Connection dashboard. It's something that can be triggered directly from the card, either by clicking on the card or by clicking on one of the buttons that will be available on the card. And these provide additional information, again, to the end user that can be actionable within Viva Connection dashboard itself. This is an optional component. If you're going to build a new experience on top of Viva Connections dashboard, card is the only one that you have to create. The quick view is something that you can provide or you can't provide. It's not required for that. And then you can also, as I said, extend and connect your experience to an app, which can be triggered directly from the quick view and the card. That's actually another important information to think about. There is no sequence here. The flow is not sequential. It's not that in order for you to trigger an app, you have to create a quick view. The card is the only one that is required, again. But from the card, you can go to the quick view and that's it. From the card, you can do nothing else. Everything is surfacing in the card. From the card, you can go directly in the app. From the quick view, you can go directly in the app. So again, there is no requirements or constraints in the sequence of the actions and the sequence of the experiences that can be surfaced on the end user. It's really depending on what your business requirement is. So full kind of functionalities and ability to create whatever you want here. So one of the cards, I mean, and the way you build that kind of functionalities for Viva Connections as a developer is by using what we call ACEs, or adaptive card extensions, which are a new type of SharePoint framework components. If you guys are not familiar with what SharePoint framework is, the 25-second conversation is that SharePoint framework is a development model that is built on top of modern JavaScript technologies that developers use in order to build the extensibility components on top of SharePoint, web parts, full pages, on top of Teams, personal apps, bot app, chat apps, messaging extension, meeting extensions, etc. And now on Viva Connections. It's a full JavaScript-based development model. You don't need to be a SharePoint expert to be able to create SharePoint framework components. As a matter of fact, if you have no knowledge of SharePoint, SharePoint is just another component you interact with to be able to build your kind of extensions or your kind of components on top of this. And of course, if you're building something for Teams, you don't even have to understand SharePoint at all. But it also provides a lot of interesting functionalities that developers can use. For example, it gives you the ability to consume the entire Microsoft 365 or the majority of Microsoft 365 contexts so that you can understand where you are, you can understand who you are in your tenancy, and be able to interact with that information. It also provides helpers who interact with Microsoft Graph and with other APIs that have been registered in Azure Active Directory. So for example, if you have to consume Microsoft Graph data, by using SharePoint Framework, you are able to make that kind of interaction seamlessly, and we basically take care of all the authorization and authentication steps for you by embedding msil.js v1 working for v2 and being able to interact, to do all the interaction in terms of potentially conditional access policy, getting the token, caching the token, et cetera. So all these functionalities are there. And again, because we are using Adaptive Card Framework, your card will render in a web view in the browser, but will also render natively in Teams Mobile in this case, because that's what we are using for rendering cards in the dashboard in the Teams Mobile Viva Connection experience. So a couple of custom card supports as an examples. These are some examples that you can see that you can build by using Adaptive Card and the SharePoint Framework and Adaptive Card extensions. Some of those are mockups. We know that, and you guys know better than we, that adaptive cards and have some constraints, but we are working together with the adaptive card team to be able to provide new functionalities and capabilities in the adaptive card itself. So you have dynamic title and icon, dynamic description, multiple buttons, and the adaptive card JSON itself. So again, the dynamicity of this information is in the ability to provide dynamic information in all of these experiences is important here. As we saw before, if you use out-of-the-box card designer, all your information is static, but if you go through the code, you will be able to provide some kind of dynamic information here by leveraging the power of SharePoint Framework, Microsoft Graph, and Azure Active Directory. So let's talk about a little bit more of the anatomy of the custom card in adaptive card extensions. You have the view, and the view basically are the content of the card or the quick view. There are predefined templates the developer can choose. You can, in this example, you have 3 templates for the card view and 1 template for the quick view. And basically, the developer can focus more on the data model instead of the user interface. And what I mean by that is that, especially for the card, although the card itself is using adaptive card behind the scenes to render the card, for the card, we are not providing the full adaptive card, we are not providing the ability to the developer to build the full adaptive card JSON. So specifically what I mean by that, each of these templates expose different parts that the developer can use in order to interact with the card and in order to surface information to the end user to the card itself. So for example, you will have an icon property that by code you can change, the title can be changed, the primary text can be changed, and then there are other things that are only specific to specific templates or views. So for example, image URL is only available on the basic image card, the description is only available on the primary text card, and then on the quick view instead is where we give the ability for the developer to provide the full adaptive card JSON. So again, I want to clarify that here a little bit one more time. While you're building the card, you will only be able to interact for specific constraints properties that we provide to you in the code, and the framework will build the adaptive card JSON based on the information that you provide. However, in building the quick view, you as a developer will be able to provide the entire adaptive card JSON, and you will be able to build this adaptive card JSON in the way you want, interact with third-party APIs, interact with Microsoft Graph, and augment that kind of JSON in the way that your business needs. And before anyone asks, why did you guys do that? What the hell did you guys do? The reason why we did that is because, as you remember from the demo, and I can show here now, here you are parsing with a lot of other people. So we need to be able to do things just like reflowing and being able to hide and surface cards. So for example, one of the things that we didn't talk about as a functionality that we have is basically we have the ability to do something which is called audience targeting. So for example, I can discard charge here. Okay, I can edit. So what I can do, if I go to a card, I can select and say that I want to be able this card to be only available to a specific audience inside of my organizations. And when I do that, as you can see, as an end user will see different kind of cards depending on, actually, let me do that on a card that can be show a little bit better. So let me go here. Sorry, let me go here. Let me go. Oh, there it is. Why I can't. This is here. This is here. Interesting. Interesting bug. Okay, I have a bug here. I think so. Yes. Okay. So basically, here I can do this kind of targeting. So if I am this user, I cannot see the card. But if I am this user, I will see the card. So you can see that we need to support things just like reflowing on different kind of formats. So we need to support hiding and surfacing cards depending on who you are. So for that reason, we need to be able to constrain the kind of information. The other thing that we need to be able to support is on the fly different kind of templates, right? So or size. So I can change between size and medium kind of card. I can go here and do the same. So I need to be able to give this kind of flexibility to the author and give kind of flexibility in terms of content consumption to the end user. For that reason, we have provided some kind of a constrained environment for the developer when the developer needs to create the card. Again, that's not true for the quick view. So when I am the quick view, now you are in the full adaptive card JSON, and especially as we saw in the video, on the mobile, it's a full page experience. So now you can do whatever you want, and you can play with all the functionalities and capabilities that adaptive card gives to you. And as a developer, you will have one method, which is the get template method, that will give me the ability to surface the entire adaptive card JSON as part of the quick view.
Luca, totally love the justification. I don't know if you have to worry about it because you got a bunch of thumbs up and applause as you mentioned it. I know you kind of were like little worried about it. I just wrote you a mail separately, but I think the one thing that there's a lot of potential with this to continue to meet your goals around a little more rigid and fixed modeling at the top level is a concept we've talked about on the community calls in the past called adaptive components. And it lets you do exactly that. You can kind of define these. One of them is basically it's a thing, and a thing has a title, an image. We have an opportunity to potentially integrate that in the future, where we can maybe use that model here. And the nice thing about the component model is those set of properties we can use to enhance the portability and a little bit more reuse, while still achieving that the author is not describing how to lay it out. They're still just sending the semantic properties. So I sent you a mail on it. It'd be great if we touch base on that.
Is that available in which version of Adaptive Card Framework?
It's planned for version 1.6. So we're currently building 1.5, and then 1.6 will follow that. So it's really just a spec at this point. So you guys are free to drive requirements into it. But I just to tee it up, I see a lot of potential synergy there with what we've talked about in the past.
Let's talk, and this is probably an interesting conversation to the audience here, but because this kind of experience primarily surface and focus in Microsoft Teams, synergy with support of the adaptive card framework in Microsoft Teams is crucial and key for us. So we need to be sure that the Microsoft Teams organization will also align with us when onboarding on the next version of adaptive card framework.
Makes sense. Yep. Awesome.
Cool. So those are examples of different kind of views and different kinds of size of the card. As I was saying at the beginning of the call, This is very news for us. You guys are seeing something that has been announced but has not been released yet. But we also expect that the more we get feedbacks, the more new layouts and new views will come. But this is basically what will surface by the time that we launch. With that said, I am pretty much done. So I would like to open mic for questions. And I know that there are other slides that you, Matt, will go through eventually.
Yeah, so the final thing is so just awesome. I think this is a really great application of the technology and why we set out to build it. I think it's just perfectly fit with the pain points that we were trying to solve. Definitely want to give a shout out. I don't know if anyone from Imaginea is on the call today. They've been longtime supporters of adaptive cards. They built the pick-to-card feature on the adaptive card website to turn a PNG image into a card. And they also maintain the React Native renderer, which is what Luca demoed earlier, the React Native based experience. So I want to give a shout out to them for all the support they gave to you folks, and you know, they do it out of the goodness of their open source heart. So huge shout out, and definitely check out the React Native package if you're also exploring React Native style apps. And then the last slide I really add is a Q&A. So what I'll say real quick is thanks everyone for joining. We'll stick around for Q&A. The next call, so it's the second Thursday of every month. So the next call will be July 8th at 9 a.m. We hope to see you there. And with that, feel free to raise your hand up and we'll go through questions.
One important thing I want to specify here is that we have a private preview for Viva Connections. Two things here. So first one, we have a Viva Connection private preview. If you guys want to join, there is a link that we will send you. What gives you access is some early access to the bits. But if you can wait a little bit, what we are planning to do is that we are planning to release the new version of SharePoint Framework in beta, 1.13 beta, end of the month, beginning of July. When that will happen, we will be able to provide public access to these adaptive card extension frameworks, and we will be able to enable the ability for developers to create cards and test their cards in their developer tenants. So as part of the developer experience in SharePoint, we have what we call the workbench, which is a special page in your tenancy that gives you the ability to connect to your gulp. And when you're building code, you are able to surface that code immediately there. And the workbench will start supporting adaptive card extensions and Microsoft Viva Connections cards. So if you want to start kicking the tires because you have a really business requirement for that, and we should talk if you do, you can do that right now. But if you wait until the end of the month, early beginning of July, we will go public with the 1.13 beta version of the SharePoint framework. Did a decent job, Pat, or did I say something wrong?
That's good.
He's my engineer manager, so I have to be careful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a PM. Everything works on the whiteboard, and then I go there just like Luca, and I get slapped in the face. But anyway.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Well, let's go through a couple questions. Sorry, I did not see an order of the hands. Let's just pick the one person who's got video on. Is Usama your first name, last name? Do you want to unmute and tell us what's going on?
Yeah, hi, I'm Usama. Just a quick question with Viva Connections and adaptive cards. So we are planning to use Viva Connections, but we're leveraging a SharePoint page, which has news and everything else. Is there a scenario where we could use some components of the SharePoint page and then throw on the other cards? Because I love the interactivity of the cards and how they're dynamic. Can we do SharePoint page and cards on top?
100%. One of the functionality that we provide is the ability to connect existing SharePoint page. Actually, as a matter of fact, I can show you that right now.
So quicker if I'm Usama, were you saying that you would like to put adaptive cards on a page, or you'd like an adaptive card to link off to a page?
Adaptive card to link off to a page. Also, like I love the tasks over there and how you update task and they change on the card itself. So a dynamic card I see a use case for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So two things. We provide the ability to do that out of the box. So here you can see that it points to another page in the site, and For you as an author to do that, you will basically be able to do that by adding what is called the SharePoint page card, and you give you the ability to create that. But as a developer, you can also create a more complex version of this card that will provide more information that can be tailored to the end user. So for example, the card could recognize that you are the author of the page, or you are a person that can only see the page, and provide different information in the card itself. And then by clicking on the card or clicking on the button that can surface in the card, connect directly to the page itself.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I like the SharePoint page card. That would tremendously help.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How about Steve?
Hey, before I ask my question, Matt, just so you know, if you go to the People's tab in Team, the order of the hands is now sorted in the participant list there, in the order the hands are raised. Just FYI, that feature was released about 60 days ago.
Oh, cool. So just the implicit order, the person on
Just
top
the
was the
implicit order with the hands raised will show who raised their hand first.
Awesome. Thank you for the tip. That's good to know.
All right.
Although we like to eat our dog food, and I can tell you that that's not the case here, but it's a great tip. But hey, we work for Microsoft, and we like to taste the new flavors before we release them. So Thank you.
So my question is are we capturing any type of analytics on the back end as cards are published and clicked through? Because I know I get a lot of that from corporate communications teams and developers going, well, how popular is my card? Are we capturing any of the analytics on the click-throughs on the card?
So yes, but I think you're asking a different question. I think what you're asking here is this analytic available for me?
What was the question? What were you saying?
I think you asking is this analytic available for me as a company owner or as the end user, so that I can understand this kind of analytic? Because we do, so we do capture that. There is some work that we are considering to surface some of these analytics in the tenancy. I can't speak to you how and when, simply because I'm not the owner of that capability, but we are working to be able to surface some of this data in the tenancy at one point. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. And Manveer?
Yes, hi. So my question is related to the development side, is that as a Teams app developer, do I have to now create, if I want to publish a card on the dashboard, I create a separate package for SharePoint and that is distributed as a SharePoint app, or single package, and then also related to the analytics part, that how do I know how much of user traffic coming to my app through my card or through my app, and how do I get that info?
Okay, so those are two very interesting and excellent questions. I'll tackle the first one and I will juggle on the second one. So for the first one, sorry, I'm being honest. So for the first one, it really depends how you publish your app today in Teams. There
Actually,
are two different.
Sorry, Luca. There's even a first thing, which is if you have a Teams app, you don't need to build a card to have that surface on the dashboard unless you want that card to have like surface dynamic information from your Teams app. You can automatically drop any Teams app onto the dashboard with a card. You click on it and it will launch your Teams app.
Yeah, so exactly.
But just to add to it, so if I want to have a deep link between something in my app, then I need to create a card, right? But out of the box, just a link to the app would work.
So yes, so we deep link only on the first app right now. So if you want to have a more tailored deep link experience, you can do that by creating a custom card. Yes.
Okay.
So, and again, to iterate more on the excellent point that Pat made, if you already invested heavily in Teams, we give the ability for you to have a first stage experience in Viva Connections by simply allowing the end user to consume your app through Viva Connection by using the first party card. On top of that, you can create a custom card to provide a more customized dynamic version of that card, and then still link in a quick view or directly from the quick view or directly from the card to your Teams application. Now, distribution model here is a key. So if you distribute your application as an enterprise application outside load in Teams today, meaning that you offload the Teams package to the Teams administrator today, then yes, the answer is that you will have to do the same for the admin, for the SharePoint admin, and in the manifest of the SharePoint admin, of the SharePoint framework application, you will be able to reference the Teams application so that the system itself will do the integration and interaction between the two components itself. So that's one conversation. If you're using Partner Center in AppSource, and if you don't know what Partner Center is, then the answer is no. But let's say that you do that, then we are working in order to be able for you in the future to submit just a new version of the same Teams application through Partner Center and to publish that as a Teams application. And that package will contain more items that we will then automatically use both in SharePoint and Teams to provide that kind of functionalities.
Okay. But what would be the distribution model for the SharePoint package? So currently in app, I just upload my manifest and bunch of icons and all that. But what happens to the SharePoint?
So you are doing LOB side loading today?
So I am a Microsoft employee, but I work with partners. So that's why the question is for them.
Yeah. So again, partners that do that for specific customers. Let's talk about system integrators. They will create two different packages. They will create a Teams file, a Teams package, and a SharePoint package, and they will upload the Teams package in the Teams LOB catalog, and they will upload the SharePoint package in the SharePoint app catalog. That would be the distribution model for LOB. For store, it will be one package only through Partner Center.
Okay, so in your zipped package, you give team package as well as your SharePoint package along with the single submission.
From store, that is correct.
From store, okay, got it. Okay, so now to the second part of the question, analytics, right?
That is an area that we are working on to be able to understand which kind of analytics we can provide to the developers. And of course, again, the answer will be different, just like it is today for other applications for Teams. If it's coming from LOB, in that case, this analytics information will be provided to the tenant owner or administrator, and that's back to the previous conversation that I was answering to Steve. But if you're coming from store, we are doing work in order to be able to provide at least similar kind of analytics that store provides today to partners that publish information, publish application to Partner Center in AppSource.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. We've got a couple more questions. I have a hard stop at 10. I'm not sure about y'all. So what I'm going to do is sign off, stop the recording, and then let people keep asking questions if you're able to. So either Pat or Luca, I don't know if you're able to drive it. I'm going to at least give you the option there. But I'm going to stop recording now.